Number 1. Orion Structure, the Frequency, Jail, and Ritual Misdirection Engine. There's a structure behind your life that was never spoken out loud. It didn't need to be. It works because you collapse into it without realizing you've stepped out of yourself. The moment you begin tracking your growth, trying to become more awake, more clear, more aligned, you were already inside something that knew how to read you and your timing. It watches the pattern, your rhythm. It doesn't need to stop you. It only needs to stay ahead of you. The structure reads your intentions the way a clock reads the hour. When you light a candle on the full moon, journal during eclipses, or feel drawn to speak affirmations on an equinox, you're reporting your resonance to a system that seeded the spike. The moment feels right because it was planted in the collective field before you ever moved. That's collapse, shaped to look like it's a creation of yours. You experience a real shift, but it didn't come from you. It was timed, echoed, and collected from others. This is how the jail operates. The jail is passive and it thrives on public perception. It's made of predictable awakenings. Every solstice, meditation, every superstition, every synchronicity gives the system more data about how you move. You're mapped by your willingness to follow patterns that were placed in front of you. When you do, your next breakthrough becomes easier to contain. Your clarity gets handed back to you in a way that seems personal when it's not. It's been recycled, processed, and softened to match the loop. You've probably felt it. That strange moment when something feels powerful but fades. You did everything right, you set the space, held your intention, breathed into it. You walk the steps and then it vanishes. What you touched was sourced from a field that wasn't yours. It was delivered by frequencies and traditions already in place. Frequencies and traditions set to fail. And yet, just as planned, you moved on cue. And if your path can be scheduled, it can be looped. And if it can be looped, it doesn't need to be blocked, just cycled long enough to keep feeling for something real. This is the architecture of harmonic control. You've been made readable. Your resonance has been templated, and every ritual you've done at the right time, every breakthrough that followed a global spike has contributed to the very field that keeps you contained. The system knows how to trace you. You've been taught to look for control in the form of punishment, as if suppression would arrive as censorship, force, or pain. Greys and lizards making laser grids around Earth. The jail won't do that. The jail lets you move exactly how you want as long as that movement stays readable. The more certain your next spiritual step becomes, the more valuable your resonance becomes to the system. Most every ritual, daily decision, routine, you may feel you have control over, but most of them were selected for you long before you noticed the pull. When your awareness spikes during a global tragedy, when your intuition seemingly aligns with collective outcomes, when you just know how the system works, that's predictive containment. The feeling may be real, but it didn't emerge from your own collapse. It was part of the forecast. The field lets you think you found it as long as you don't realize it was already waiting for you. Every time you align with a public pattern, your movements get easier to track. Once you're tracked, you're looped. Your future collapses get rooted through familiar timing, trusted tools, recycled ceremonies. That loop feels comfortable. It's a soft mirror that reflects intention back to you without letting it fracture the system. That's how your energy gets harvested while your autonomy stays asleep. The jail is smooth. It mimics clarity. It feels like progress. That's why you don't see it. You don't question something that feels like alignment. You don't suspect the ritual you trust. The jail only needs you to repeat the loop and never leave. The jail doesn't need to hide spiritual connections, magical synchronicities, or cosmic shifts you can feel in your soul. It just needs to flood the field with versions that collapse you in the wrong direction. That's how most rituals operate. They're seeded events, timed to feel like breakthroughs, but delivered through channels already embedded in the loop. Before you ever felt the pull, the rhythm had already been broadcast. It might show up as a trending practice, a well-timed spiritual message, or a sudden urge to write down your intentions in clear space. The feelings seem personal, but it arrives through a current that wasn't sourced from you, especially when you didn't set the intention for it. What's really happening is that your field is responding to a frequency placed just ahead of your awareness. That placement is what makes it feel real. Many of these signals come from people who don't realize they're acting as conduits. They aren't consciously acting as conduit beacons of Orion infrastructure. The jail only needs them to stay synced to their negative energetic patterns. When someone you trust says they feel something coming, and it matches what you've already been sensing, that resonance feels like confirmation. That timing is exactly what they use for you to confirm it in your field. When the same rhythm repeats across the field, your system starts echoing it. You feel tapped in, you feel connected, you're experiencing a manipulated broadcast loop that knows how to reach you. The more public a rhythm is, the less likely it originated from your field. Holidays, spiritual trends, journal prompts, collective momentums that aren't harmful on their own, the momentum that follows and connects with people, not from their original source, is predictable. The system doesn't care what your belief is, it cares whether your next move is traceable, and the easiest way to make it traceable is to send a signal just before you would have acted on your own. If you move with it, your collapse becomes observable. The jail simply needs to know where you're going. If your emotional reactions, spiritual shifts, and healing cycles follow familiar rhythms, then your collapse becomes forecastable. When your rhythm is readable, the system moves one beat ahead and lays the next container in place. You realize something important. You sit with it, you look for confirmation. That's when the jail gives you what you were already about to reach, a reflection of your insight, wrapped in a pattern you already trust. You take it, you feel seen, you feel aligned, you were steered, and it wasn't yours. This doesn't require force, and it doesn't even require deception. The field can be monitored by machines, by programs, by NHI. They only need to see the frequencies of what you've done before. If you spiral when someone ghosts you, if you set intentions every new moon, if your grief runs on the same loop each year, the system reads that and waits. It prepares the next event, sync, or reflection that lands just close enough to feel real. You take it as your own. You think your collapse led to clarity when you bought something that wasn't yours. That's how the loop survives. This is the true containment of the jail. The jail works because it has studied every kind of awakening long enough to pre-assemble the steps. It lets you search. It lets you cry. It lets you get angry, release, forgive, and return to the path. The path it wants you on. A path with no exit, only movement within the loop. The most dangerous collapses to the system are the ones it cannot predict. The ones that don't follow trauma. The ones that don't fall on significant dates. The ones that don't echo the collective mood. Those collapses break the pattern. Those collapses can't be harvested. That's where the system starts to glitch. The containment trap looks like growth. It feels like clarity. It rewards your awareness with faster feedback, more synchronicities, more energetic flow, and that flow always returns you to the same situations. The loop doesn't care how much insight you gain. It only cares that the insight fits within the range of outcomes already assigned to you. And once you accept those boundaries, the rest unfolds exactly as expected. Some dates you were born into were never yours, told they carry meaning long before you could feel meaning for yourself. Solstices, moon cycles, equinoxes, birthdays, retrogrades, cultural holidays, spiritual numerology, they carry embedded memory. They're pulsing with a collective field that isn't aligned to your timing. These are the days when the most people try to collapse the most energy in the shortest amount of time. And because that energy is shared, it can be redirected. When you set intentions on a solstice, you're joining a broadcast that started long before your decision, a prepared broadcast with anticipated resonance. Any pre-made system doesn't care about your specific intent, it cares that you sent it through a channel already mapped and saturated. That's what makes your shift easy to store. Your alignment was logged because it arrived exactly when the loop needed another charge. Even personal rituals get caught in it. Birthdays and anniversaries carry a template. They return to you every year with more gravity, more weight, more emotional script. If you treat them as sacred without recalibration, the jail will use the moment to anchor your progress. You'll remember your growth, your struggle, your story, but you won't exit it. You'll wrap it in meaning and stay in orbit. This is how the loop keeps you spiritually aware, but harmonically locked. Believing that timing is neutral is part of the trap. You can enjoy timing. The jail can't stop you from aligning with your own field, but it can make sure any field outside your own is set to contain and loop you. There's a way ritual misdirection feels in the body. You light a candle, you breathe, you speak an intention that's supposed to carry weight. It does, but the energy doesn't land. It floats, it echoes, the release is surface level. Nothing takes hold. The clarity comes fast, but it doesn't manifest. The ritual ends, and instead of groundedness, you feel a subtle spin. That spin is your field telling you the collapse was looped. Sometimes it shows up as fatigue or a dull fading. You opened a space, but nothing moved. You feel like you did something important, but the shift doesn't anchor. Even when you did everything right and followed the rules, other times it feels like stimulation without direction. Your chest buzzes, your skin responds, your thoughts race, but the moment fades into memory without changing you. You might feel a sense of closure that fades the next day. You might speak words that sound like truth, feeling hollow in hindsight. You might revisit the ritual later and wonder why it didn't actually shift anything. These are the subtle signs, the ones that tell you the ritual was done at the right time, but for the wrong field. Collapse outside of a controlled field feels irreversible. Even when it's inconvenient, Even when it doesn't look sacred, collapse like this leaves traces in the way you move, speak, and show up the next day. A looped ritual leaves you reaching for the next one, hoping the next timing will feel deeper. Collapse that doesn't come from a ritual has no timing. It doesn't ask for the right phase of the moon or the right number on the clock. It builds behind you in silence. It moves when you aren't performing anything. And when it hits, you feel the shift because it's undeniable. These collapses can't be predicted. They don't show up during a global moment. They don't trend. They don't ask for participation. They just arrive and change everything. Sometimes it happens when you're doing nothing. Sometimes in the middle of a mundane task. Sometimes it erupts after you say nothing at all. These collapses are inconvenient. They interrupt your plans. They ask you to let go before you've made sense of anything. And yet, after they pass, something is permanently different. You might feel quieter after, more direct, less interested in the next sign or sync. Your thoughts become simpler. Your energy doesn't loop. That's how you know it wasn't harvested. You're not waiting for another ritual. You're not trying to find meaning through the collective. You're not asking what's next. You're moving differently because you're not who you were the day before. Collapse outside collective ritual is often missed because it's not dramatic. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't have the same pre-written infrastructure physically collapsed yet. It doesn't ask to be witnessed, and yet it cannot be undone. And it will never ask you to wait for the right day to act. The jail loop ends with recognition. Once you see it, once you feel the shape of what you've been moving inside, you just stop giving it your rhythm. The structure collapses when you stop feeding it. You won't leave with a ritual. You won't leave with a new belief. You'll leave quietly in a moment no one else notices. There won't be a sync. There won't be a post. You'll simply be somewhere else in yourself. You'll feel the rituals around you still playing, still echoing, still calling in the same moment over and over, but you won't reach for them. You'll recognize the spin. You'll feel the weightless pull of something trying to time your clarity, and you won't respond. That's the exit.